Almost half of the world's population faces joint pain. The pathology is especially common in people over 60 years old, but recently people under 50 years old are increasingly suffering from painful sensations when moving. Perhaps the reason is in your diet. There are foods that provoke pathological changes in joint tissues. An abundance of fatty foods and a sedentary lifestyle are another reason for frequent problems with the musculoskeletal system. If you want to alleviate your condition and no longer feel pain, first of all, review your menu. According to experts, joints or connective cartilage tissue in the human body, consisting of collagen, need proper nutrition. Decreased flexibility and mobility in the joints with age is a consequence of the aging of collagen in the connective tissues. But it can be rejuvenated if you give up certain foods. Fatty meat is the main enemy of joints and bones. Many people believe that meat is an extremely healthy product, rich in protein, iron, and other important elements. However, not everything is so simple. If you care about the health of your joints and bones, you should pay closer attention to the amount of fatty meat in your diet. The fact is that red meat, especially fatty varieties, beef, pork, lamb, contains arachidonic acid, a substance that, when it enters the body, breaks down into a whole group of biologically active compounds called casinoids. These substances play an important role in the functioning of the body, regulate blood pressure, control the tone of the intestinal muscles, affect the process of narrowing and dilating blood vessels, participate in many other physiological processes. Thus, casinoids are necessary for the normal functioning of the body. However, there is one nuance. They also participate in inflammatory reactions. How does fatty meat harm joints and bones? Despite the beneficial functions, excess casinoids can have a negative impact on health. This is especially true for joints and bones. Increase inflammatory processes in joints. Casinoids are actively involved in inflammation mechanisms. If the body already has a predisposition to joint diseases, for example arthritis, eating large amounts of fatty meat can increase inflammation, which will lead to pain, swelling, and deterioration of joint mobility. Remove calcium from bones. Another negative feature is that casinoids contribute to the leaching of calcium. A lack of this mineral makes bones more fragile, increases the risk of osteoporosis and fractures, especially in older people. How to reduce harm? You should not completely give up meat, because it is a source of important amino acids and microelements. However, to reduce the negative impact, reduce the consumption of fatty meats, replacing them with leaner options, chicken, turkey, rabbit. Include more fish in your diet, which is rich in healthy omega-3 fatty acids that reduce inflammation. Do 2 to 3 fasting days a week, excluding fatty meat from the menu. This will help reduce inflammation and maintain bone health. Nightshade vegetables, a hidden threat to joints and bones. Potatoes, tomatoes, peppers, and eggplants are popular vegetables that are present in the diet of most people. They are rich in vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants that are good for health. However, not everyone knows that these vegetables can negatively affect the condition of joints and bone tissue. What do nightshade vegetables have in common? These products belong to the nightshade family, which contains a special chemical compound, the alkaloid solanine. In small quantities, it is not dangerous, but with regular or excessive consumption, it can cause unpleasant symptoms. How does solanine affect the body? When it enters the body, solanine can provoke problems with digestion, diarrhea, nausea, bloating, and colic disorders of the nervous system, insomnia, anxiety, depression, irritability, headaches, and joint pain, especially in people prone to inflammatory diseases such as arthritis. Solanine has a weak toxic effect and can increase inflammatory processes in the body, which makes it especially undesirable for people suffering from joint diseases. Why are nightshades harmful to joints and bones? Increase inflammation. Eating nightshade vegetables can exacerbate inflammatory processes, especially in people with arthritis, arthrosis, and other joint diseases. If you experience joint stiffness or pain after eating, your body may be reacting to solanine. They leach calcium from your bones. Research shows that the alkaloids in nightshade plants can interfere with calcium absorption and promote its excretion from the body. This is especially dangerous for people with osteoporosis or age-related changes in bone tissue. Should you completely eliminate potatoes and other nightshades? A complete rejection is not necessary, as these products contain many useful substances. Tomatoes are rich in lycopene, a powerful antioxidant. Peppers contain a large amount of vitamin C, which strengthens the immune system. Eggplants are rich in fiber, which improves digestion. However, if you notice that after fried potatoes or a salad with tomatoes, Your joint pain has increased. Try reducing your consumption of nightshades and replacing them with more neutral side dishes. Instead of potatoes, buckwheat, quinoa, zucchini, sweet potatoes. Instead of tomatoes, cucumbers, lettuce, carrots. Nightshade vegetables are not harmful to everyone, but people with joint problems should listen to their body. If you feel discomfort after eating potatoes or tomatoes, try temporarily removing them from your diet and monitor your condition. Perhaps this will help reduce inflammation and improve your well-being. Phosphates are another product that is harmful to joints. Many products that we consume daily contain phosphates, special additives that improve taste, consistency, and shelf life. However, their excess in the body can cause serious harm to bones and joints, contributing to the destruction of cartilage tissue and the development of diseases of the musculoskeletal system. What products contain phosphates? Phosphates are actively used in the food industry and are found in such products as carbonated drinks, especially cola and lemonade, canned goods, meat, fish, vegetables, sweets, cookies, candies, ice cream, chewing gum, processed cheeses, and many processed dairy products, condensed milk and milkshakes. Phosphates are designated on the packaging by codes E338-E343, E450-E452, so when choosing products, you should pay attention to the composition. Why is excess phosphates dangerous? Phosphorus is an important element for the body, participating in the formation of bones and teeth. However, its excess disrupts the balance of minerals, especially calcium, which leads to the following problems: destruction of bone and cartilage tissue. When there are too many phosphates, they disrupt the acid-base balance, making the blood more acidic. In response to this, the body begins to actively consume calcium to neutralize the acidity. As a result, bones and joints lose their strength, become brittle, and microcracks can appear in them. Risk of osteoporosis and osteoarthritis. A lack of calcium leads to a decrease in bone density, and this is the main factor in the development of osteoporosis, a disease in which bones become brittle and prone to fractures. In addition, phosphates accumulate in the body and can contribute to the development of osteoarthritis, a chronic joint disease that leads to their deformation and pain. Joint inflammation. Consumption of large amounts of foods with phosphates can increase inflammatory processes in the body, which is especially dangerous for people suffering from arthritis, arthrosis, and other joint diseases. How to reduce the harm from phosphates? It is difficult to completely eliminate phosphates from the diet, but you can reduce their amount and minimize the harm. Limit soda and canned food, replacing them with natural drinks, fruit drink, compote, herbal tea, and fresh products. Give preference to natural cheeses instead of processed ones. Choose hard varieties: Parmesan, Gouda, cheddar. Avoid industrial sweets, replacing them with natural desserts, fruits, nuts, yogurts without additives. Monitor the balance of calcium, adding foods rich in this element to the diet: cottage cheese, kefir, greens, sesame seeds. Phosphates are a hidden threat that slowly destroys joints and bones. If you want to maintain the health of the musculoskeletal system, try to limit the consumption of products with artificial phosphates and give preference to natural food. The last harmful product is gluten. In recent years, the topic of gluten has caused a lot of controversy. Some consider it harmless, others argue that it can cause serious health problems. However, scientific studies confirm that excess gluten in the diet can negatively affect the joints and skeletal system, especially in people with increased sensitivity to this protein. What is gluten, and where is it found? Gluten is a group of proteins found in some cereals, primarily wheat, rye, and barley. It gives the dough elasticity and helps products retain their shape. Gluten-rich foods, bakery products, bread, buns, cakes, cookies, pasta and noodles, breadcrumbs and crackers, fast food, burgers, nuggets, French fries, soy sauce, salad dressings and sauces, ketchup, mayonnaise, flavored chips and snacks, beer, and some types of wine. How does gluten affect joints and bones? Provokes inflammation in the joints. In people with increased sensitivity to gluten, it can cause inflammatory processes in the body, including joints. This is especially true for people prone to rheumatoid arthritis and autoimmune diseases. Increases the risk of rheumatoid arthritis. Studies show that patients with gluten intolerance and celiac disease have a higher risk development of rheumatoid arthritis. This is due to the fact that in such people, gluten causes an autoimmune reaction, during which the body begins to attack its own joints. Interferes with the absorption of nutrients. Gluten can irritate the intestinal mucosa and impair the absorption of important minerals such as calcium, magnesium, and vitamin D, which in the long term weakens the bones and makes them more brittle. May contribute to fluid retention. In some people, gluten causes swelling and fluid retention in the body, which increases the load on the joints and can cause pain. Should you completely give up gluten? If you do not have an intolerance to gluten, you do not necessarily have to eliminate it completely. However, if you notice that after eating bread, pasta, or beer, you have joint pain, swelling, or discomfort, try reducing the amount of gluten in your diet and monitor your well-being. How to reduce the harm of gluten? Choose gluten-free alternatives: rice, buckwheat, quinoa, corn, or coconut flour. Reduce your consumption of fast food and processed foods as they often contain hidden gluten. Pay attention to the composition of products. Gluten is often added to sauces, seasonings, even some dairy products. Eat a balanced diet. Increase the amount of vegetables, fruits, and protein products, meat, fish, eggs, that do not contain gluten. Gluten is not dangerous for everyone, but in people with sensitivity to it, it can provoke joint inflammation, impair calcium absorption, and increase the risk of developing rheumatoid arthritis. If you notice unpleasant symptoms after eating gluten products, you should try to reduce its amount in your diet and observe the changes in your body. Monitor your diet before it is too late.